Yo, James Gunn.
Oh, hi, Zack Snyder.
Just saw your new cut of Superman, and word of advice, he's the man of steel, not the man of conversation.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Rick and Morty Season 8, Episode 7 video. There are a whole bunch of jokes and references, basically the whole episode against James Gunn, a little bit against Zack Snyder too, but mostly James Gunn was the villain of this, with a lot of DC jokes because he's rebooting the DC universe with the Superman movie, and a lot of Marvel jokes too. James Gunn and Zack Snyder even recorded their lines for the episode on the same day. This picture behind me on the monitor here, they took right after recording the episode. The episode title was Ricker Than Fiction, a reference to the Will Ferrell movie Stranger Than Fiction. During that, he plays a character who suddenly starts hearing the voice of a narrator to every action that he takes, eventually wondering if he's actually in control of his own life or if he'll just give up to the actual narrator. In the episode, this basically happens to Rick and Morty, where they get stuck in the fictional Maximum Velocity movie, and Jerry becomes the narrator that has to save them by changing the story on the fly. The cold open starts with Rick and Morty and Jerry watching Interdimensional Cable again. This time, it's another sequel in a franchise that Rick and Morty have been watching for a long time and enjoying, basically like a version of the MCU or the DCU. But he thinks it's absolute crap, like it's random genre sci-fi slop. He gets so pissed at it, demands to see the manager, which they use for a bit about a fourth wall break meta reference to Warner Brothers Discovery, who owns the Rick and Morty TV show in real life now. Warner Brothers Discovery owns Turner Networks, Turner owns Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, so Warner Brothers and David Zaslav are the evil overlords in real life. That's why Rick and Morty makes so much fun of David Zaslav, like they made a burn about him a couple episodes ago, about not wanting to piss him off because they weren't sure which president he voted for. There's been a ton of chaos at Warner Brothers Discovery the last couple of years with the failed mergers, buyouts. They're changing the name of HBO Max for like the fourth time now. Shows and movies getting canceled left and right, getting backgirled. That's like an actual term that people use now. You don't want to get backgirled, where you basically get put in this deep dark hole and nobody ever sees the movie or TV show you made ever. Thus, it has made very easy cannon fodder for Rick and Morty jokes. That's why you hear a lot of Warner Brothers related jokes. This episode was a little more timely because James Gunn is literally releasing the brand new Superman movie next week as of me posting this video, or technically it's this week because it'll be Monday when I'm actually posting the video.
Just saw your new cut of Superman, and word of advice.
I'm literally supposed to see that movie in the next day. I'll be posting my review on Tuesday for that. It's like, who had to wait that long to actually see it? But at least within the context of the episode, the whole joke is that Jerry loves the movie because he's very simple-minded, and Rick and Morty are more discerning. They've been fans for a very long time for all the movies, the older movies too, like a long-time MCU fan or a long-time DC movie fan that's been watching them for 20 plus years now, in Rick's case. But now he thinks the movies have turned into complete crap, like a lot of MCU fans, a lot of DC movie fans who got really pissed off with the way things went with the franchises, and in general, all comic book movies have gotten to a really fallow point. All these robo-trees, like the whole genre, reminded me of the new Baron Cons episode just because they had numbers on themselves, but it's a bit of a combination reference to all the Justice League DC movies, all the Marvel movies with the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy, because of James Gunn, obviously. Tarnation Casket, Baron Thistle, just references to an amalgam of pop culture things from Marvel and DC, like the gem power for their version of the Infinity Stones. All the evil henchmen look kind of like versions of parademons from the Justice League movie. The leader of the Robo-Trees is Arbor Knight. He's actually played by Stephen Agee, who's been in most of James Gunn's movies. He's also on Peacemaker. He's been in a ton of different things. I do not think his character is supposed to be in the new Superman movie, though, but he will be here in Peacemaker Season 2. Redwood sounds kind of like a Flash parody. Palme d'Or is an actual plant. Most people, when they think of Palme d'Or, they think of the Cannes Film Festival, which itself is just named after an actual tree. Cypress, the girl boss lady, as he calls her, sounds like an amalgam of Wonder Woman and Black Widow. And the joke about representation here, girl bosses in movies, TV shows, she's meant to be like the token girl on the team, and they treat her like a girl boss, really on the nose kind of way. Tannenbaum is meant to be the comedic relief character, which is what Rick gets really pissed off about. The whole bit about them reintroducing the characters again in the 9th movie in the franchise is definitely an MCU Marvel joke. The idea being that the MCU has been going on for so long now, more than 16 years at this point. There are so many movies, so many TV shows, casual fans forget a lot of information about the characters, or they just outright skip some of the movies so they don't meet characters, so they don't know what's going on when new movies come out. So we're kind of at the point now where each new big movie all big movie franchises in general kind of do a version of this, where the characters will have subtle ways of acknowledging each other, like reminding you what their names are, what their backstories are, like what their relationship with the other characters are. Basically just re-explaining the plot to people who weren't paying attention. At the end of the credits of this fake movie, the song that plays is a parody of 1 Week by the Bare Naked Ladies called Maximum Velocity. They also play a longer version of this during the actual credits for the episode. The lyrics are hilarious. I'll talk about them when we get to that part of the actual episode itself. But I think their spaceship is just meant to be a Guardians of the Galaxy generic reference because of all the James Gunn stuff going on here. They learned that this movie in the franchise was directed by James Gunn, who was recently hired to take over the Maximum Velocity franchise at Warner Bros. Discovery, which is also a meta reference to James Gunn being hired by Warner Bros. Discovery to take over DC, become their Kevin Feige, and reboot all of DC movies, starting with the Superman movie this week.
I wear my trunks on the outside of my pants. Like, it's liberating.
Rick pees on the TV, then demanding to see the manager, basically setting up James Gunn as the villain of the actual episode. Rick portals them to his offices at Warner Bros. Discovery. In real life, this is actually what James Gunn's office at the DC studios inside the real Warner Bros. Discovery looks like. Looking around his office, he's just got different posters for all the Maximum Velocity movies in the franchise, model toys of the ship, objects from the movies, references to screenwriting in general, just references to all the movies, things that you would find inside his office, but DC related in real life though. And it is actual James Gunn doing the cameo in the episode. They got him for real to do the episode. He is a big Rick and Morty fan in real life, so it's probably pretty easy to get him to do the episode because Warner Bros. Discovery owns both the DC movies, like DC Studios, and they own Rick and Morty. So it was sort of like their boss coming to them both and saying, hey, why don't you be on this show? Bradley Cooper apparently carved his desk, also canonizing Bradley Cooper to the Rick and Morty universe. That feels like both a Guardians of the Galaxy and a Harrison Ford joke. So if you didn't realize, Harrison Ford was known as a very skilled craftsman and a builder before he had his big break as an actor. So there's actually homes in Hollywood right now, like in Bel Air, like all around the rich areas that people still live in, that Harrison Ford actually built when he was really early on in his movie-making career. Bradley Cooper, also the longtime collaborator of James Gunn, is the voice of Rocket Raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and he's also playing James Gunn's version of Jor-El in the new Superman movie, so anytime that Jor-El is going to show up in future DC movies now, it'll be Bradley Cooper. Rick complaining about too many comedic relief characters and wanting more plot in his movies feels like a Star Wars prequels reference. That was like the overwhelming reaction to Jar Jar Binks in the prequels when they first came out, like, oh, this is too silly, it's too much for kids. James Gunn tells Rick that he owes him another desk now, and then jokes about making 1 billion more Batman ideas. So there's a larger bit about Warner Brothers not really knowing how to do the DC movies or make other good DC movies, only really thinking to make Batman movies. Like that's their emergency go-to move. What can we do that'll make money? Why don't we just make 1 billion more Batman movies? James Gunn, to his credit, in real life, is trying to change that. Like he's trying to lead off with a really good Superman movie, develop that character, and do a lot of world building in the Superman movie. But I will talk about all that during my Superman videos this week. That's like a whole separate thing going on in real life right now. He says the next Maximum Velocity sequel movie has been through 40 different script rewrites. Even though it's going to be spending $500 million on it, fans still won't like it. Rick decides he's going to then fix the movie himself. When he says the script is watermarked, a lot of times in real life, they'll print scripts on special paper that'll prevent people from actually copying it in a machine. It'll make it easier for them to track leaks if pages get out too. Jerry then gets left behind, forced to take an Uber home. None of the new scenes in the intro appear in this episode. There are only 3 episodes left this season 2, so we'll see. There's probably going to be at least one more episode with some intro scenes in it.
I invented it during the title sequence.
Rick then makes a machine that will make better movies in seconds, breaking the fourth wall again when he says that he did it during the title sequence because he knows that he's a character in a fake TV show. The Movielizer is basically meant to be a dig at AI, the idea that people try to make clips, short movies now using AI tools in real life, although in most cases they look pretty bad and you can usually tell the difference. The original writer of the movie is credited as Alan Smithtree, which is an official pseudonym in real life used by film directors who wish to disown a project. So the joke here is that James Gunn thought the movie here, like this sequel movie that he was about to release, was going to be crap and wanted to take his name off of it. Rick's machine then creates an AI version of the movie. When he mentions prompts, that's the way you interact with most AI tools like ChatGPT. You give it a prompt. He changes the plot so that one of the main characters kills the villain this time instead of letting him get away again. In-universe, gets thrown in prison for the killing, throwing everything off the rails, and leaving them without an ending to the movie, getting them trapped in the machine. When Morty references the save the cat trope, that's actually something in real life that writers reference when they say that a hero in a story performs an action that makes them instantly likable to the audience. And Morty's trying to say, no, we don't want to do that this time. We want the character to become unlikable. Rick makes the last action hero reference. In that movie, the character gets sucked into an actual movie. Also notice when they get sucked into the movie universe, the aspect ratio for all of their scenes changes to movie aspect ratio. We see the black bars, and it goes back to being regular 16:9 during all the Jerry scenes in the real world. They actually did this during the Marvel Agatha All Along series and during WandaVision, where they'll change aspect ratios based on the episode tropes that they're doing. You notice that the Robo-Tree's headquarters looks just like the Hall of Justice, just because of so many DC and Marvel references during the episode. Jerry's able to speak to them as the narrator from the real world, which is where they get to the title of the episode, the stranger than fiction trope, Jerry now being the narrator character that they're hearing and being able to change the actual story on the fly. Jerry starts messing with the machine, trying to help them, but because it's Jerry, it's the lamest sounding ideas ever, but the real twist here is that he's a true fan of the franchise and winds up helping them actually solve the issue. And part of the idea is that they make a lot of references to screenwriting tropes, like characters on arcs. Rick goes on his own arc, where eventually he does wind up loving the movie franchise again because of the craziness that happens in the episode. Like, oh, I love this again. I love this character that I hated before. So part of the joke is that the movie Lizer, even though it seems like it broke, actually did what Rick asked it to do, just not in a way that he expected it to do. When Jerry says the script is 3,000 pages and counting, meaning that there's more coming, typically 2 to 3 hour movies that you would see in a theater are only about 90 to 120 pages long, meaning that they're stuck in like a 10 to 12 hour movie, and this version of the movie has no ending, so they'll be trapped indefinitely until they come up with one. That is another trope that a lot of screenwriters talk about to each other, like very inside baseball jokes going on in this episode, like your movie doesn't have an ending, there's no third act. James Gunn himself actually makes a lot of these references in real life when he talks about the problem with movies nowadays. Like, why aren't movies good? Well, because a lot of people try to start filming movies without finished scripts. That's basically what happens in this episode, like there's an unfinished script that they have to finish through the course of the episode. When Morty says one of the previous sequels brought George Washington back to life with lightning, that's a Justice League Snyder Cut reference, also foreshadowing Zack Snyder's cameo later in the episode when they brought Superman back to life. They do their version of the Justice League scene, bringing the main villain back to life just like Superman in the Justice League Snyder Cut. Rick then inadvertently kills him again after he bites Morty, turning him into the new antagonist, making him the main villain of this movie that they're in the middle of trying to finish.
James Gunn.
Oh, hi, Zack Snyder.
Then they have their big Zack Snyder cameo. It was great. Totally love this stuff. They make a joke about how much he likes working out, asking for an entire tub of creatine at the commissary. He's released workout videos in real life too, so he is kind of like this in real life. Their whole conversation is a whole meta bit about the drama behind the Justice League Snyder Cut and the Snyder fandom versus the James Gunn fandom, him rebooting the DCEU, firing all the Justice League actors like Henry Cavill Superman, jokes about the brand new Superman movie he's about to release, just all the things that you could imagine they would make fun of involving Zack Snyder and James Gunn right now that are going on in real life. But if you didn't realize, Zack Snyder and James Gunn have been friends for a very long time. James Gunn actually wrote his Dawn of the Dead movie back in the day, and they've been friends ever since. It was actually revealed that they took this picture right after recording their lines for this episode back-to-back, so they had just done the cameos in this episode and then just stuck around after at James Gunn's offices at DC, hanging out, talking about stuff. So there is no bad blood or no drama between them at all in real life. But in the episode, they make a whole bunch of jokes. Zack Snyder makes all kinds of jokes about the new David Cornswet Superman movie, saying there's too much talking in it. He makes references to his Henry Cavill Man of Steel movie, like it was called Man of Steel. He makes a joke about James Gunn needing to add more slow motion because there's lots of slow motion that Zack Snyder uses in his Superman movie, all his movies just in general. James Gunn references a Count Chocula movie that Warner Brothers is in the middle of making. That might be a real thing. You know, you laugh, it's a joke, but it could be a real thing that they're actually trying to make right now. I wouldn't put it above them. Zack Snyder says he's encountered Rick Sanchez before, making it sound like he came to complain about Batman v Superman and his Justice League movie a couple years ago, so Rick probably just complains about all movies on the regular. He even says he trapped Christopher Nolan in a real 4-dimensional bookcase to punish him for Interstellar because he didn't like the Interstellar movie. Morty then takes over Baron Thistle's lair. They have a bit about how all of his henchmen were mistreated and underappreciated. Also, they kind of look like parodies of parademons from the Justice League movie. James Gunn, in the real world, then goes to check on Rick's progress. Remember, they're setting him up as the main villain of the episode, pissed when it seems like Rick has been successful. He's driving a Dodge Challenger in the episode based on the one that he owned in real life. He actually used to own a Dodge Hellcat, but I don't think he drives it anymore. You notice Rick's lock screen is a picture of him mooning the Warner Brothers water tower, another joke of the writers making fun of the people that actually own their show in real life. He makes the very, very bad fake lady voice pretending to be Beth to trick Jerry. Back inside the movie, Rick then gets arrested so he can help rescue Tenenbaum and winds up giving him a pep talk who's turned super hardcore now, and Rick starts to like, oh, you're cool now, I actually like your character. James Gunn then starts acting like an actual villain, laughing maniacally, villain style, and he's going to steal Rick's AI movie-making machine for himself. But they actually make a callback joke to him being too weak to actually physically drag it out and steal it, like, oh, I should have listened to Zack Snyder and started working out more. Inside the movie, they have their own version of TikTok, Morty using it to put them on blast and start the final boss fight so that they can actually end the movie. They then get caught fighting over the actual ending with both different sides coming after them. James Gunn takes over as the narrator, stealing the machine with his car, also tells Jerry that he's willing to turn his dinosaur book that he wrote into 2 different movies, 2-picture deal, meaning that he get a sequel, and that he should come to the dark side, like give in to the pressures of Hollywood, sell out, so to speak.
I read that dinosaur book you wrote, Jerry.
Jerry then actually takes out James Gunn, knocks him out flat on his ass, which is another joke about how weak James Gunn is, like so weak that even Jerry could easily knock him out. Rick then gives Jerry a pep talk to finish the movie story so they can escape. Next big joke being that Adderall is his secret weapon for being ultra productive, which people do in real life all the time, like abuse Adderall to do better at school, better on tests, better at work, is a very, very big problem. Then the bit about Jerry's ending not making any sense while he's on the drugs, also them calling out a lot of these big Hollywood franchise movies, Marvel movies, DC movies in general, that have cobbled together endings that they make at the very last minute Frankenstein style with no script and nothing makes sense, but there's crazy action. James Gunn himself actually called this out in real life. Like a lot of big movies have this problem where they don't actually have finished scripts, so they don't have a third act. So when you actually go to see these movies, they feel terrible, even though there are a couple of good things going on earlier in the movie. All because they try to film it without finishing the script before they do it. Morty then activates the weapon to melt the ice caps. Rick gets saved by Tenenbaum, has his own arc where Tenenbaum then winds up killing him. And the way they explain this is that the respective sides kill both Rick and Morty, and they actually do die and get buried inside the movie universe. Like he comes out of the machine saying, we actually really did die. When he goes out saying, see you next summer, that's also a reference that Rick likes the movies again, and he'll go see the sequel, which will release next summer. Like, you're gonna do another movie eventually, I will go see that movie. Then they pay off the other Zack Snyder joke about adding more slow motion when they go into slow motion as they're falling into the beam. When he says they outdone the Gunn, talking about himself in third person, it's actually a reference to the weird James Gunn hashtags on Twitter right now. Like it gets very, very meta with the jokes. Tenenbaum becomes the Tenon Knight, the leader of their group. James Gunn's tears then short out the machine, allowing them to escape. Jerry's drugs, still active, leaving him unable to blink through this entire scene, and you see James Gunn stealing the hard drive with a new copy of the movie on it, which he loves, trying to get Warner Brothers to actually release it. Then he gets his own comeuppance, where they have their big twist and Warner Brothers themselves kill James Gunn rather than release a good movie, which is just a joke about Hollywood at large not caring about fans or releasing good movies, only caring about profits and just endless sequels. Here's the thing too, I actually kind of appreciated this attention to detail. When he asks, why was it called a Sunday, like the gun was called the Sunday that he shot him with, that's actually a meta joke for real life James Gunn, saying that he really questions the logic of a lot of bits, particularly in his own movies, but in other people's movies too. Any small little detail about the way things work, like he always questions it, it has to make sense to him. So the idea is that he lay dying here, he just didn't understand the logic of why the gun was called a Sunday. Like, why would you name your gun a Sunday? The way they framed the shot with him lying in the blood, the overhead look here, is meant to be a parody of the Superman movie trailer with him lying in the snow bleeding that same way. Then they play that same Bare Naked Ladies parody song over the end credits, and if you listen to the actual lyrics of the song, they just narrate what's happening in real life like it's a lot of inside baseball jokes about releasing movies in real life. Talking about the domestic numbers doing poorly, relying on the Japan box office. Then in the post-credit scene, they put Jerry inside a version of Space Jam 7, the movie that he himself wrote so that he can do what Rick and Morty just did, having fun. But there's also a bit about how Rick and Morty were inside Space Jam 2, the sequel movie recently, which they later made fun of in the season that aired right after Space Jam came out. Summer then comes in after they leave, wanting to turn her Raptor fanfic into a movie, implying that Jerry will wind up inside a Raptor fanfic movie, being worked up like they really do a number on him, while all the Warner Brothers characters in Space Jam just watch it happen like, "What are you doing to me? Please help, Speedy Gonzalez."
Oh no, dear God.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's going to be one of the memories that Rick will eventually pull from his mind with the Morty's Mind Blowers machine. Like, nope, you do not want to remember what happened inside the Movie-lizer. But there were extra references and Easter eggs in this episode, like it was 4 layers deep with how meta they got with everything, just what's happening in real life now with the new Superman movie coming out, James Gunn rebooting DC movies, all the Zack Snyder jokes that they had with his cameo in the episode. So if there's anything that you spotted that I didn't talk about during this video, just write it below in the comments. My assumption is that James Gunn actually talked to them about doing an episode and then they decided to try and time it so that it would come out the week of the Superman movie. My full episode 8 video will post next week after they release it, and like I said, real big reminder is that James Gunn's new Superman movie is literally releasing in a couple days as of me posting this video. My review for that will probably be one of the next videos that I post, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. We will see how it all winds up going. Very optimistic, but we will see. Everybody click here for that Superman movie review. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my other Rick and Morty episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.